U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee arrived last week at the Tel Aviv District Court to observe the proceedings of Benjamin Netanyahu's ongoing trial. This particular act of solidarity with the Israeli Prime Minister followed a number of statements by President Donald Trump expressing outrage at the politically motivated case. Trump went further, urging that the trial be canceled immediately or that Netanyahu be granted a pardon. As was to be anticipated, the very activists and pundits who'd spent years in cahoots with the Biden administration to rescue Israel from Netanyahu have been in a tizzy over what they consider inexcusable American intervention in Israel's internal affairs. The hypocrisy would be hilarious if it weren't so egregious. Ditto for the fact that the hearing Huckabee had come to attend was suddenly deemed a closed-door session, so the U.S. envoy and the rest of the viewing public were sent away. It's unclear whether the move was related to the presence of Huckabee, who was photographed clutching a Bugs Bunny doll as he greeted Netanyahu and Amir Ohana, the Speaker of the Knesset. This was more than an inside joke. The stuffed cartoon character's role in the trial has become widely known and rightly ridiculed, turning the prosecution into a laughingstock. For anyone unfamiliar with this element of the overall farce, a little recap is in order. To illustrate Netanyahu's long-standing and corrupt connection, corrupted, I say in air quotes, to Hollywood mogul Arnon Milchan, the prosecutors pointed to the 1996 purchase of the toy in question. Apparently, Milchan was asked by Netanyahu's wife, Sarah, to buy a Bugs Bunny doll for the couple's then 5-year-old son, Yair. According to the story on which the Prime Minister was grilled ad nauseum, Milchan schlepped around New York City in the rain to comply. When the Prime Minister said he recalled something about a Bugs Bunny gift, but was vague on the details since the event happened nearly 3 decades ago, prosecutors accused him of possessing a selectively poor memory. Later, Netanyahu would quip that he hadn't realized the trial was about who killed Roger Rabbit, and his supporters dubbed the silly business Bugs Bunny Gate. This is merely a taste of the travesty that Trump referred to on Truth Social as a witch hunt against Bibi, who deserves much better than this, and so does the state of Israel, as Trump said. For a deeper dive into the deep state persecution of Israel's democratically elected leader, there's a new Hebrew language film with English subtitles that spells it out. It's called The Trial. It's a sequel to the documentary that was released in October 2022, a month before the Knesset elections that resulted in the current Netanyahu-led government. Part 1 gives a rundown of the indictments, spurred by a 2015 hit job in the far-left newspaper Haaretz, with a focus on the bribery charge, the most serious of the 3. The lesser 2 are fraud and breach of trust. Now, part 2 of the film shows how flimsy the bribery case is. Through interviews with legal eagles and other knowledgeable sources, it demonstrates that nobody involved in the attempt to criminalize Netanyahu thought that he would actually persist in proving his innocence. In other words, the lawyers preparing the cases didn't imagine they'd end up before the bench. Furthermore, at the end of 2023, the judges recommended to the prosecution that it consider dropping the bribery charge due to a lack of evidence. And that was still during the prosecution phase, well before a single defense witness had taken the stand. Knesset member and advocate Moshe Saada, former official at the state attorney's office, explains in the film that bribery is the main offense and that if it falls apart, the others become pointless as well. He compares it to a person accused of murder who's also charged with running a red light. Once the bench says there's no evidence of murder, does anyone really care after that about the traffic violation? Nevertheless, the state prosecutors wouldn't budge. Then there are the law enforcement officials. On June 28, 2023, former Israel Police Commissioner Roni Al-Sheikh said in an interview on Army radio that nobody could have guessed that Netanyahu would opt to fight within the system rather than resign. In the film, Professor Yuval Al-Bashan from the Faculty of Law at Ono Academic College calls this shocking, since what can be inferred from it is that the police and state prosecutors expected Netanyahu to give up the fight and make a plea bargain. That from the start, the case was built not for a courtroom confrontation, but as a tool to pressure the prime minister to step down. As if all this weren't egregious enough, in the midst of Israel's multi-front war that began on October 7, 2023, the prosecutors and judges denied Netanyahu's request to postpone the defense phase of the trial, which began in December 2024, by 2.5 months. And this was actually the phase that Netanyahu had been waiting for to prove his innocence. Instead, he was initially forced to appear 3 times a week for hours at a time. Later, the prosecutors and judges agreed to hear his testimony only twice a week. Renowned constitutional and criminal lawyer Alan Dershowitz says in the film, "I don't know of any other country that would require its leader during wartime to spend so much of his time in court on so frivolous a case. In the United States, this could never happen." Well, that's for sure. And one last crucial note. The people interviewed in the film are not all supporters of Netanyahu, to put it mildly. Take former Justice Minister Chaim Ramon, for instance, who says, "I think Netanyahu should have resigned after October 7th, and I very much hope he won't be prime minister after the next elections. But at the ballot box, by the people, the public, only the public will decide." And Professor Moshe Eliah, a leading expert in comparative constitutional law, who until recently was on the left, sums up the whole thing nicely. He says this, "What we're seeing here is a country in the throes of an anybody but Bibi psychosis." He's got that right. And he didn't even have to submit Bugs Bunny as Exhibit A to prove it.